Hello, everybody. So today, wait, let me turn off my air conditioner. Okay. So it's been a very interesting week, and but we continue on our path, and and that is to focus on more important things, and the most important thing right now is that one of my very generous patrons on my Patreon page asked me a question. So, shout out to you, Ultan Lavery. Thank you very much. I hope I pronounced your name right, but thank you for your question. Ultan wanted to know how to do a scale outline on Bouncing with Bud. And so this is from the new real book. And I'll also link to the YouTube of it. And it's one of Bud Powell's masterpieces. And it is a little challenging because you have a lot of two-beat changes. And two-beat changes is a big topic that Barry speaks of when he talks about songs where the harmony changes every two beats. And the main operating principle there is that you do one note of one and three of the other. So we'll have a look at how that works in this context. So the A section of Bouncing with Bud begins. So we'll focus in on that part because that seems to be the very slightly involved part. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. So we have a B flat to C minor to D minor to E flat minor. This 4 minor idea. And then it climbs back down. G to C, C minor, and then the C minor becomes a D7 and then resolves to G minor, to a C sharp diminished, and then 2-5-1. So there are a couple of ways of approaching this. The first thing, and I actually asked Barry about this, and he said, just go up the scale. In other words, so the first approach is you could just do the chords up the scale. A B flat, a C minor, a D minor, E flat minor 7, back down, and that resolves to the G7. So your first approach might be okay? The other thing you could do is you could look at the B flat, the C, the D, and the E flat and say, well, those really all equal B flat major. They're all chords in B flat major. So you could play the B flat scale up and down. And remember, in this method, we play the scale to the 7th. Those of you that aren't familiar, you play to the 7th. Because that puts you in rhythm. If I played it to the 8th, I mean, it works, but it's actually a little bit more rhythmically cool to go. Okay, so just had to mention that. So we take the B flat major up and down to the 7th and back down. When you get to B flat the second time, you're already on the 5th of an E flat. So you could throw in a or something outlining an E flat there. Now the next interesting part is where the C minor turns to a D7. Now, if we look at C minor, go to the sixth of the C minor and the bass, that really is an A minor 7 flat 5. And the A minor 7 flat 5 is the chord that's found on the third of an F7. Therefore, for the fourth measure, C minor to D7, I might play F7. Oh, sorry, F7. Down from the seventh of F, which is E flat, not B flat, which I just played. Forget that. To the third of D. So, two different ways. One, and the other way, you could just play the straight scale. For the D minor to G7, I might play either it could be B flat up, or I might do a G7. I don't know how good that sounds. Let's try it. I keep wanting to do B flat. There are just so many connections. What'd I say? I don't like that. So I'm kind of going through this process in front of you because, again, this scale outline idea is not hard and fast rules. You kind of have to do what feels right. And there can be other approaches, such as moving up the chords. I might move up 6 chords. Oops. So it starts to give you ideas. Still trying to figure out what to do on this D minor 7 to G7, and so you could actually do B flat 7 down, D minor. If you think of this as a minor 7 flat 5, you could do B flat 7 down to the third of G. Oh. And that might sound nice. So let's try it that way. So we're going to do B flat major up and down to the fifth of the E flat minor. And then we're going to go B flat 7 down, F7 down to the third. Let's see what that sounds like. So maybe this sounds a little out of place. But by the same token, it doesn't hurt to practice all of those things, because I think, to me, just by my understanding, because all of these videos are really just my understanding, okay? So feel free to comment, and again, it's a conversation. But you could just as easily use that note in your solo, you know? That A flat, and it was totally cool. So why not practice the B flat 7? So you actually have a number of strategies now. You have the scales, the chords up the scale for the first two measures, or on the third measure you have a couple of strategies. You could go back to the root, because 3 equals 1, right? Or you could do a B flat 7 down, if we're doing the chords, we just come up the chord and come up to the third of G. So there's a number of ways of doing that. I think this C minor to D7 on the fourth measure is definitely the F7 down to the third of D. And then now let's look at measures 5 through 9. So measure 5, you would probably play, and again it's a guess, but I think it's a G minor with a half step between the 5th and the 6th. And then the C sharp diminished 7th. Remember the previous video about the family and about the diminished genealogy, which I'll link to both of those. We know that the C sharp diminished, C7 is really in the family of a C sharp diminished. So I'm going to play a C7 down to the third of A, because C7 and A7 are all in the family of C sharp diminished. So I believe the standard treatment of this chord would be C7 to the third of A. And then you have a straight up turnaround, but the thing is, it's a 2-beat turnaround. So you got 2, 5, 1, 2 beats each. So you would treat it, you would probably go, the C minor 7 would take, the C minor 7 to F7 would take F7 up. And then you have B flat to F7. So if memory serves, in a similar situation, you might find something like this. You would land on the root B flat on beat 1, and then 2 and 3 and 4, you come down from the 5th of the F7 down to the root. So I'll play each version, or an approximation of each version of the first 8 measures. I think we'll leave it there for now, because the rest of it seems rather self-explanatory if you apply the same principles. But if you guys want, I'll go on this on another video. But I try to keep them short so that you know, I don't take up too much of your time, or my time for that matter. So here we go. So that's the first version. Another way can be going up the chords. And then the same deal. Up. Now, this music says on the second 8, the fourth change is an E flat major instead of E flat minor. So you would just modify it accordingly. The part that goes. Oops. So, I hope that was helpful. Thank you, Utan. Again, shout out to you. Also, shout out to Alex Stein and Lafayette Harris, who helped me out with this a little bit. And, of course, the great master himself, Dr. Barry Harris. While we're at it, let's thank Bud Powell, too, for giving us this beautiful song. I hope you guys are staying safe and staying focused. And God bless all of you. Thank you. Talk to you soon.